Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Belinda here from Visualized NZ, back with Trashcraft Tuesday. As you know, or if maybe you do, maybe you don't, I really enjoy Trashcraft Tuesdays. They push me to be creative with things that would normally be thrown away. And as I've had COVID during September and then moved into a cold at the end of September, which I've still got, I've gone through a bucket load of tissues, like so many, and I finished off another box yesterday, and I really liked this beautiful tropical pattern, and I was busy cutting it up, so trimming off all the flaps and things, and I really like to die cut the cardstock, and I was intending to do that with these lovely pieces, and then there's the top there, but then I had another idea. So that's what I'm going to do. It's not something I've done with a tissue box before, but I really liked this design. And this is the branded side, so I need to cover that up, and that gave me a few quandaries as to how I was going to do that without covering this up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it into a traveler's notebook style journal. So it's not quite the same dimensions as a traveler's notebook. It's about 1/2 inch smaller, both across and in height, roughly. So it's not hugely different, but if you use traveler's notebook cover, then this is probably a wee bit small. I don't have a cover for traveler's notebook style. I just use them as is. So for people who don't use a cover, then it's not a problem that it's slightly smaller than your standard traveler's notebook. So standard traveler's notebook is 8.5 high by 4.5 wide, and this is 4 wide by 8.5 tall. So it's not hugely different. So I just had to trim off that overhang that it had there, and it's beautiful, just lovely cardstock inside. So what I thought, my solution to what I would do with this is use some fabric. So it's Trashcraft Tuesday, so I went to my bag of scraps, fabric scraps that I got from Creative Junk, and chose out a piece that I thought might work. And I really liked this quite neutral fabric here, and it's got this really raggedy edge, which I actually super love. And I'm just trying to work out which is the front of the fabric and which is the back. I think this is the front. And I thought it would be quite nice to use that raggedy edge just on the edge of the front there, like that, and then cover the whole back of it with the fabric and wrap it just around to the inside. That's my plan. I don't know yet what I'm going to do with the top and the bottom, but let's just take it a step at a time. So firstly, I think what I'm going to do is cover this side in gel medium. So normally I'd use matte medium. This is a heavy one. I think that just means it sticks better, and it's also gloss, which is not my preference, but I'm using it as a glue. So you could use whatever glue you like. Hopefully this is okay. I have never actually dipped into this before, and I usually like to spread it on with a palette knife, but I can't find my palette knives, so I'm going to use a gift card to spread it out, because it does the same job, and really I should have something else under here to catch when I go off the edge, but I don't. So let's just hope for the best. So I really like using the mediums for gluing fabric on because it just gives a really good adherence. It doesn't tend to come through the fabric, well, not in my experience anyway. And it's nice and smooth. Yeah, smooth surface, so you don't, as long as you spread it out well, don't get sort of lumps and bubbles and that sort of stuff. Of course you do need to make sure it's all fully covered, and I'm no expert with it. I've just, yeah, so if my technique is wrong, then it's just my technique. It's just how I do it. Oops. So just trying to make sure I get a nice, good, even coverage. And yeah, palette knife definitely works better. This is, the card's bending on me in the middle, so I'm getting sort of peaks and troughs, but I'm sure it will all work out fine. That looks good enough to me. Now, next trick is to get it straight on the fabric. Since I'm working with stripes here, I want to try and make sure that I get the stripes straight. Would be good. I just had a little panic mode there that I was gluing it to the wrong side of the fabric, but no, she's all good. It's all good. Okay. Using the opposite end of my card just to push it down onto the fabric. And I'm getting it everywhere. I need a wet wipe before I get myself into difficulties gluing things that I don't want to glue. So the medium that I'm using, if you're not familiar with medium, it's really good as a sealer and really good as a glue. So it's used a lot in things like collage and mixed media, all that type of thing. I love using it as a glue. Oops, I've got a few little creases, but other than that, it's looking quite good. So now, just wondering whether to put it on the card or the fabric. I need to put it on the card, really. It would be easier. Oops, just going to wipe up my cutting mat here that's getting bits of medium on. I think I'll leave that out. Right, I'm going to try and put it where I need it on the card. So this could be interesting because I've got this raggedy edge. It's not straight. So let's see how we go. Just start with that bit. And I can always go in under the edges and pick it up with some PVA, tacky glue, something like that. So, okay, I've gone over in places, so wet wipe to the rescue. Just take care of those bits. There we go. Give it a dry off. Yep, I think this is going to be cool, actually. Oops. Fabric has a little bit of stretch to it, so I can see where it's not quite straight, but straight enough. Straight enough. Okay. Oops. Really needs to be dry before I mess too much with it. Otherwise it's going to do dumb things. So I'm going to leave that for it to dry for it just a bit. I don't know how long this takes to dry. I can't remember. So I'm just going to clean things off so I don't get into a complete mess. We want to wipe that off onto some rubbish or something first, but I don't have anything really suitable, so wet wipe it is. Right. There we go. So while that's, give that a moment to drive, where's it going? Sorry about that, my nose is still being a pain. Okay, so I have sorted out the pages that I want to put in the journal, because I found doing the Traveller's Notebook pages on camera does not work for me, because I get my head all confused with the dimensions. So all the pages except these ones are ready. Now these ones I've cut to the height, which, well, actually they're not cut to the height, it's just the height that the book page were. And it's a Japanese recipe book. And I didn't want to use one page and fold it in half, because it's going to be way too narrow. So I'm going to hinge these. So, oops, sorry about that, guys. Getting caught up on the cord. Which I thought I'd do on camera, because I knew I'd need some time for the medium to dry. So I thought we could do this while that's drying. So what washi do we want to use? Maybe this one. It's a nice sort of generic washi. It's blue with white arrows, which could be quite nice. And I'm just going to run it down the two pages where they join, hopefully straight. There we go. Don't think I did too bad on the straightness there. And I'm going to run it over the other side as well. And this will just join the two pages together to become a page for the signature. Now that are too wide now. So I've gone from being too narrow to too wide. And that's not a problem. You can trim them if you want them to be the right size. Or in this case, I'm going to do some fold overs, some little side flips, so whoever uses the journal can choose to glue it down into a pocket, or they could use it as extra journaling space, or a flip and attach a photo or a journaling card or something to where it's folded over. Gives you lots of options. So there we go, there's our little hinged page. Give that a burnish. And now it needs to be 4 inches wide, and it is 5 1/4. So I'm just going to give a little pencil mark at 4 inches. On that side. And I want them going opposite ways or the same way. I think I'll do the same way. You can always flip one around and make it go the other way when it comes to using the journal. So, just going to line that up on my grid here. Oops. Straight would be nice. That looks better. I'm just gonna, I don't know if this is gonna work, so this is an experiment. Take my scoring tool and just run it down there, just so I hopefully fold it straight. Yep, worked beautifully. Because there's a little bit of give in the cutting mat, so it just was enough to give me a line to fold on. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So a little tip, if you don't have a scoreboard, grab a cutting mat or something similar with a little bit of give in it, and a scoring tool, and you can pick up scoring tools, bone folders, all that sort of thing separately. They come with scoreboards, but you can also buy them separately for not too much. And there you've got a little scoreboard just on your cutting mat. Probably not sufficient if you were trying to score card, but for paper it works perfectly fine, as I just discovered. So there we go. We have little flips, so you could attach another bit of paper. For example, you know, if you just want to stick that there and make the page longer. This is a very tatty bit of eco-dyed paper that I've cut off. You could glue it and make it into a little side tuck. If you wanted to decide you want to use it on the other side of the page, just flip it around and crease it down and she'll be good to go. So it's quite a modern book, so the pages are nice. They're not going to crack on you, but there's this really lovely Japanese text in there. So there's our pages, so let's put them in order. So it's a book page, bit of this old tiny graph paper. It's like 1mm squares, which is super cute. And a bit of coloured paper. And we'll put this lined paper in there, middle. Let's go for some music paper. This is vintage paper. It is quite soft, so I would advise being careful with it. Once it's in there, it should be fine. But I found when I was tearing it, it doesn't crack, but it's very soft. A little bit of plain paper, creamy sort of colour. Came out of an old exercise book. Some starry paper, just for a little bright spot in there. This is the eco-dyed paper. This little one here, it wasn't wide enough, so I've just made one side the right size and the other a bit narrower. And that's a Korean exercise book, which I picked up at Creative Junk. Book page from an encyclopedia. Let's go some more grid paper from a stamp album, and again that's got a little flip out. Brown paper. Some more coloured paper. Another book page, which is out of a 1919 Navy book. Actually I might put the coloured paper next. And then coffee dyed paper in the middle. Okay, so that's going to be our signature, which will be all good. And I might have to do a bit of trimming, but I'll wait and see on how the cover fits. Right, how are we going? I think that's looking pretty good. Okay. Now, do I want to? Yes, I do want to wrap it round. I'm going to trim off the corners. I'm just making this up as I go along. I've never done half a cover in fabric. I've always done a whole cover in fabric. But I was like, you know, I've got this pretty pattern, and this is a limited edition pattern, so it's not going, it's probably no longer available actually when I think about it, because we've had this tissue box for quite a while. This fabric is fraying, so it'll be good to glue it down. Take the loose threads off. And then I want to not have quite so much hanging over the edge there. So give it a trim up. There. And at the top. Oops. Attached by a thread. There we go. Fuzzies everywhere. Okay, now back to the medium. I'm going to do the top and bottom first. And I think I might this time put it on the fabric. See how that works for me. And see if just using the popsicle stick is going to spread it out enough. I think it's going to be okay because I'm not trying to cover a huge surface. one at a time. So now that it's glued down, any frayed bits will only go so far. They're not going to completely unravel because it's glued down. Now we'll do this side. I think this is working well with the popsicle stick for these small areas. So I hope everyone's having a good day today. I'm feeling better, but obviously still not 100%. It's taking its time and I'm still super annoyed, but you know, nothing you can do about it. You just got to get on. Went out for dinner last night, which was lovely. Caught up with friends that we haven't been out to dinner. We used to go once a month, but we hadn't been for a good while actually. Since we last went into New Zealand, last went into lockdown, so that's many months ago now. And then we just hadn't got back to it, so with one thing or another. So it was really lovely to go out and have a meal. And I bought, I ate less than a quarter of my meal, so I bought lots of food home. That'll probably do me at least 2 lunches, maybe even 3, which is a bonus. Heaps and heaps of food, because I can't eat much now. Can't fit much in, so yeah, it's quite fun. I quite enjoy it, and I find it quite funny that I survive on so little, but it's good, really good. And it means that when we do go out, that you know, even if I just have an entree, I've always got leftovers from an entree as well, which does me a lunch. So it makes it a lot more affordable to go out. Of course, husband still eats the same as what he would, but at least we're not paying, you know, financially it actually works out better. Because then I've got lunches sorted for myself, don't need to worry about that, so that's less food taking out of the household stores. Right, I think that's pretty nicely covered. A couple of little patches on the edge, but pretty good. Right, just wipe that off now that I've done that. So I was actually given this jar, Italio brand, so never used this one before. Oops, got some medium. Something you do want to clean up straight away, because if you leave it, it will stick, and it is hard to get off, and it's hard to get off your fingers as well. Yeah, it's very sticky stuff. Right, now I've got some funky corners happening here, so just tucking them in and gluing them so they're not funky anymore. Well, less funky anyway. There we go. That's looking pretty good so far. I'm quite happy with that. Right, I do want to sew around this as well. I do see I have a few marks off my fingers on the card, hoping that they're just going to wipe off. Yes, they are, so that's cool, because I would prefer to leave the inside plain. It's extra writing space, so you can see the fabric detail. I don't want to line it with paper, and it is cardstock. If it was just a paper cover, then I would line it for sure. Right, there we go. There is a cute little cover. I might embellish the front a little bit, not sure, but I need to sew round it before I put the pages in. So I will do that off camera, and then I will come back and put the pages in. So I'll be back soon. Okay, I'm back. I have sewn around the journal just with a zigzag stitch. Looks really nice on the back there with that stitch. My machine did have a little hiccup, and I don't know what it did. Maybe the glue wasn't dry or something. Ended up with a little bunch of threads down here. I didn't want to cut them and risk the whole thing unraveling, so I just tucked the threads, glued them under this wee label, and this label is off Etsy from Printables by Marty Joe. A really cute little label there, and I thought pineapple goes with that sort of tropical vibe. Right, I have trimmed up my pages as well where they needed to be trimmed up, and in doing so I now have none of those flip outs that I did have originally, so that's okay. The pages are all ready to go now, so I am going to sew them in. So just use my clips to hold them in place, and the pages are different heights. You know, I don't mind that. I like a bit of variety when I do journals. I don't think they all have to be the same height. I think it adds interest, and it can add a challenge too. If you're working across pages on a double page spread or something, it can make you think a bit more creatively, I've found, when I'm working on my own journals. So right, I think that's pretty good in there, maybe. Right, so I want 3 times the height, and I'm going to use black thread for this because there's some black in the tissue box pattern. So this one's a little trickier to work with because it's been coiled up around the card. 2, 3. Right, grab out my needle. Now I have done this a few times on camera, including a video last week where I think I did both of them. Did I do both of them on camera? I can't remember now. But there are other videos where I show this, so I'm just going to pretty much do it without talking through, oops, sorry about that, without talking through the whole process like a tutorial. So let's eyeball about middle-ish, and about somewhere between 1 and 2 inches from one end, and about the same from the other, ish, very ish. It's not going to matter if they're not perfectly symmetrical. It's just going to hold the journal together. So in and through, oops, holding the end so it doesn't pull through like it just did then. Back through the middle and through, sorry, probably off camera doing that, through the other end. And pass it through the top loop there and remove the needle. So quick and easy. Right, just giving it a tighten. And tighten a knot. And another good knot. Another knot for good measure. That's what I really meant to say. There we go. And can take the clips off. Put my needle away before it runs away. and hide somewhere, like under a unwitting foot or something. Don't need any of that. Right, and there is the journal, all lovely and sewn and fun. I think that's fun. So making a quick little journal out of a tissue box. What could be better? So I am going to list this one on my Etsy. I might just do a few little finishing touches. It's going to be basically a nude journal, so I'm not going to worry about pockets and decorating up. So if you're someone that prefers a blank journal to work in for art or writing or something, or if you like to decorate them up yourself, then this would be the perfect one for what you like to do. So there we go, there's a quick little journal using a tissue box. I hope you enjoyed this video and this episode of Trishcraft Tuesday, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Bye for now.